What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Bokeh Bros. Although today is just one Bokeh Bro here, Mark won't be joining us because we need to maintain the proper social distance. Anyway, in today's video, I'm going to go over some of my favorite cheap lenses under $200 so I can give you an idea about how to build a kit on the cheap. Let's dive right into it. First, we have some zoom lenses. I personally own the Lumix 14 to 42mm f3.5 to 5.6. Although this specific one is rebranded, it's still made by Panasonic in Japan and can be bought on eBay or AliExpress for much cheaper than its Lumix branded counterparts. I also have the Panasonic Lumix 45 to 150mm f4 to 5.6, a telephoto zoom lens that came as a part of a double lens kit of my old G7 camera. As for prime lenses, we'll look at the 7-Artisan 7.5mm f2.8 fisheye and the SLR Magic 8mm f4.0, which are ultra-wide lenses. For more standard focal length, we have the 7-Artisan's 35mm f1.2 and the Camlen 50mm f1.1, which are some fast manual lenses for under $200 each. Also under $200, we have the Panasonic Lumix 25mm f1.7 and the Yongnuo 42.5mm f1.7. These two lenses come with autofocus that makes photography jobs so much easier. Lastly, we'll take a look at two vintage lenses. First, we have the Helios 44-2 58mm f2.8, which is another manual lens. Although it lacks the sharpness of modern lenses, it produces very cool swirly bokeh effects. Another vintage lens that I own is the Practica 135mm f2.8. Similar lenses to this one are also made by a few other manufacturers for the same M42 film SLR mount. First, let's talk about zoom lenses. If you buy a camera as a kit, the kit lens included is usually a standard zoom lens, like this one, covering equivalent full-frame focal length of around 20 to 80mm. This particular lens has a 14 to 42mm focal length, which translates to 28 to 84mm full-frame equivalent. These standard zoom lenses are usually pretty slow, like this one is f3.5 to 5.6. That means they're kind of useless in low light and don't produce any impressive bokeh either. I sometimes use this lens when I want a compact camera to bring with me on the go. They work well as travel lenses. Landscape and architecture photography should also be just fine with a zoom lens. But portraits would be much more appealing when shot with a fast prime lens. Telephoto zoom lenses like this one could also be included in a kit, and some of them come pretty cheap as well. These lenses are a little less vanilla. They allow you to emphasize on a subject even at a distance. It's great for certain types of landscape or portrait, but in other situations it may be a little too telephoto. Now, enter the all-in-one zoom. Essentially, these lenses are zoom lenses with much wider focal range than the aforementioned. Sometimes you can get them in a kit, but generally they're not cheap on their own. This Lumix 14 to 140mm is my favorite travel lens because of its incredible versatility. At 28 to 280mm full-frame equivalent, you can go from wide to telephoto without swapping lenses. If an all-in-one zoom lens kit fits in your budget, I would highly recommend it. In a word, since you may be getting one of these with your camera anyway, it wouldn't hurt to keep a zoom lens in your kit. You may get tired of swapping prime lenses in and out in the end and just stick with a zoom lens. I know I do sometimes. Using a zoom lens is also an excellent way to figure out what your favorite focal length is and figure out what your next prime lens purchase should be, which is our next topic. The second type of lenses that can be bought on a budget is the prime lens. At this price range, you can expect to find some excellent manual lenses that are both sharp and fast. Here we have a bunch of these manual focus prime lenses, and they're actually my personal favorite because it's just so much fun to shoot with them. Most of these lenses are also available in other mirrorless mounts. They range from ultra-wide like these two. I made a video comparing these two lenses, check it out. To standard focal length like 25, so 50 equivalent, or 35, so 70 equivalent. To something a little more telephoto, like this 50mm, so 100mm equivalent, from Camlen. The last two lenses are both incredibly fast at f1.2 and f1.1. But I would recommend a wider lens if you're to shoot in low light. That is because with more telephoto lenses, you would need faster shutter speeds to produce sharp images, unless your camera or lens has in-body or optical stabilization, that is. Another type of manual lens is the vintage lens. Some of the old lenses still hold up relatively well to this day, and they tend to have some weird characteristics that modern lenses don't have, like the Helios 44-2. Famously, it has very swirly bokeh. Or this Practica lens, which is a fast telephoto manual lens. However, it is worth noting that modern lenses are generally sharper and produce images with more contrast. Of course, there are also autofocus prime lenses. Now, these are some of my most frequently used lenses. Autofocus prime lenses in this price range tend to be slower than their manual counterparts. In this price range, I have the Lumix 25mm f1.7 and the Yongnuo 42.5mm f1.7. They are certainly slower, but they save you the time of focusing and make a lot of shots possible. If you're doing a photo shoot for a client, autofocus is probably better for the job. You don't want to make people wait while you focus. You'll miss the moment. So what kind of prime lens is right for you? Well, it really depends on what you shoot. If you're going to be doing any photography job, I would strongly recommend autofocus lenses like these ones, because after all, time is money. But if you're just doing photography for fun, or trying to get some nice portraits of your friends, these manual lenses are both cheap and fun. For portraits, I use quite a few different lenses for different compositions. I like using the 25mm for full body shots and the more telephoto lenses for various close-ups. If you're into photographing architecture, a wide lens will convey the grandeur of the structure. If you're planning to do event photography and fast premium zoom lenses are outside of your budget, I find the 25mm to be a great focal length. It may be a bit wide at times, but remember, you can always crop in, but you can never crop out. In conclusion, if you're still unsure, stick with the kit lens that your camera came with. You can figure out what focal length best suits your style from there. And if you want to step it up a bit to get that sweet bokeh, the 50mm equivalent is the highly versatile focal length and can be obtained for a very cheap price. As a side note, the secondhand market is also worth investigating. Sometimes you can get more premium lenses for much lower price than their retail price. But always remember bros, lenses are just gear. The most important thing in photography is to have fun. And you're not gonna have fun if you just stare at your gear and not go out there and get the experience of shooting. So get out there and take some shots. And we'll see you in the next one.